Good morning, good Chodesh, everybody. Today we start the parshas, the last parsha in the book of Shemais, Eila Pekudei. We're holding on chapter 38, verse number 21. Eila Pekudei Mishkan. This is the number of the Mishkan. Mishkan Eidos, which is the Mishkan, a place of testimony. Asher Pakad Pi Moshe, which was counted by on the mouth of Moshe. Avodas Leviim, which was the service to the Leviim. Yadi Isamar ben Anna Kohen was put in the hands of Isamar, Isamar, the son of Aaron, the high priest. Now she says, this parsha, all the weights of the donations was counted. Over here in this parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu made a full calculation of all the donations of gold, of the silver, the gold, and the copper, and all implements of the works that were counted. Mishkan. Rashi says, why does it say two times Mishkan and the Mishkan? This alludes to the temple, which was taken as a Mishkan. Mishkan also means as a security, mashkin, by the two destruction. For Jewish people's sins, the temple was taking a collateral on Israel's sins. When Israel fully repents, the third temple, we're waiting to build the third temple. With the third temple, we will rebuild the Meheda B'Yameinu. Mishkan Eidos, Rashi says, Eidos Lisa, the Mishkan is a testimony for Israel that the Holy One, blessed be He, forgave them on their sin, and the Shekhinah, the presence of God, rested in their midst. Avodas Leviim, what means the work of the Leviim, the number of the counting of the Mishkan and its furnishings, which is work given over to the Leviim. In the desert, they carried and they dismantled, so that was their job. Yadi Summer, Rashi says he was appointed over them to deliver each family to work. He gave each one their work. He was the manager. And Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, to the tribe of Yehuda, Hashem did whatever God commanded. As Moshe, the Moshe. Rashi says, Ashetziva Enksiv. Over here, that Moshe had commanded him was not written, but all that the Lord has commanded Moshe, meaning that even in things that was that he was master, had not said to him, but Salal, you coincide with that what was said to Moshe at Sinai. For Moshe commanded Betzalel first to make the furnishings and afterward to make the building, the Mishkan. So since in the contrary to the Holy One, blessed be He, commands opposite the path of Truma. First, God commanded them to make the furnishing, the tables, the menorah, the curtains, and afterwards gave them the command to make the planks. The Mishkan, where the command our teacher Moshe, may he rest in peace, at the beginning of Vayakel. First, he Mishkan and then the tent, and its tent, and afterwards the furnishing. And Rashi is referring to the command to the workers, in order that he should work. We find that the Parsha Kisisa, where God commanded concerning making the Mishkan Shosnim, we see I call upon the name of Betzalel. At the first, the tenth of meaning mentioned, afterwards its furnishing. As far as the command of Truma to donate, to prepare what they require for the Mishkan, what difference it make what you donate first. Thus, in order the furnishing listing there is irrelevant, so to say. Rashi in essence says that Betzalel said, Betzalel knew what the Eibishter wanted, that first you build the building and then you make the furnishings. And that's what he did. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu called him Betzel Kel, that he heard that he's in the shadow of God. Because that's what the Eibishter really wanted. At first you make the Mishkan, and then you make the vessels. Verse 22, with him was Eliyahu, the son of Achisamach, Dan, to the tribe of Dan. He was a craftsman. He knew how to master weaver. But chelis about gonna in the broidery of the blue wool and the purple wool, crimson in the linen, and all the gold that was used for the work of the holy. And the gold, the waving was 29 talents. 29 kika, 29 talents. 700 ushleishim shekel, the shekel HaKodesh. Now she says a kikar, a talent, is 60 mana. The mana of the Holy One was double. the normal mana. Hence, the talent mentioned here was equal to 120 ordinary mana, twice the normal talent. The mana was 20 to 25 shelas, thus a talent of the holder with 3,000 shekel. Therefore, the text counts in detail of the shekel that were less than 3,000, since they would not amount to a talent. So there was 29 talents of gold. But and the silver the community brought in was ma'askika, was 100 talents of silver. And 775 shekel. So remember, we mentioned that the menorah was 1 talent of gold. The menorah was 1 talent. It came up to a couple of million, $32 million, the menorah, something like that. The Beis HaMikdash was 29. The whole Mishkan was 60 mana. 29 talents. So go figure that out. Bekalag Goylis. 29, 30 times the amount of the menorah itself. Bekalag Goylis Masa shekel. Each one gave a half a shekel. That's how the silver came. The shekel achet the kodesh, in the counting of the kodesh. Koleval apakudim, all those that went in the counting. Ben Esrim Shanam Maila, when 20 years and above. The Sheish Meis Elef to the 600,000. The Shleish Alafim and the 603,000. Hamesh Meis and 550. Becca, she says the name of weight of a half a shekel. The Sheish Meis. This is how many Israelites with the word. The number was equal to this. After the Mishkan was erected, as it appears in the book of Numbers. Now, too, they were donated to the Mishkan. See how many there were. The number where half a shekel was 600,000 equals 100 talents. Each one of the equivalent to 3,000 shekel. How so? 600,000 half of shekels equals 300,000 whole shekels, which equal 100 talents. So that is 3,340 equals 1,775 shekel, whole shekels, which equals up to a talent. 100 talents of silver were used for casting of the sakas of the holy. And the sakas are dividing curtains, 100 sockets out of 100 talents, 1 talent to each socket. So we went exactly to how many talents there were, to how many sockets there were. Latsekes, Lasisa Latsekes means to pour. As Adne HaKodesh, the sockets for the planks of the Mishkan, which were 40 planks, which each had 90 or 96 sockets. In addition to the 4 sockets dividing curtain, equals 100 silver sockets. But the rest of the sockets, the Torah prescribes that they were made out of copper. So that's why there were other planks around the curtain, around the whole courtyard also had sockets, but they were made out of copper. And the extra, the 1,770 shekel, what was extra over the 100 talents. Also Vaveim, he made the hooks for the pillars, B'tzipor Hashem, and the covering of the tops of the planks. They were and banded them. What connected they were made out of silver. B'tzipor Hashem shalamudim, for the tops of the pillars. For concerning them, it's written the cover with tops was silver. And then the copper, the waving was 70 talents. Shekel and 2,400 shekel. He made out of the copper. He made the sockets for the entrance of the temple. He made a copper altar, outside altar. The copper grating around the altar. That's called Caleb, and all its vessels were made out of copper. And also the sockets of the courtyard all around. The sockets were made out of copper. It's called Yizdeis HaMishkan. The gate of the courtyard with Yizdeis HaChotza, and all the pegs of the Mishkan were made out of copper. Verse chapter 39, verse number 1. and from out of the purple, the blue and purple, and the crimson wool. Also, Bigdei Asrad, he made the meshwork garment to serve the holy. There's Bigdei Kodesh, and he made the Aaron's garments. Asher Aaron, which Aaron wore, Moshe, which God commanded Moshe. Now, since the linen is not mentioned here, I can include that the Bigdei Asrad is not the garments of the Kohana. For all the Kehanim garments had linen. So Rashi said many times. Instead, I believe that the Bigdei Asrad is talking about the covering, the furniture that covered over all these the Klei HaMikdash, all the vessels of the Mikdash when they traveled that had no linen. But the Kehanim's clothes had linen. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now start the new chapter, chapter 34 of Tanya, which the Alter Rebbe introduced us a little bit to the Avos. It is known Sha'avos hein markava. The Avos were the Merkava. They were called in Kabbalah, and the Zohar, they're called a chariot. They were called a chariot. When the Kabbalah wants to give, the Zohar wants to give, tell you a show and tell, so to say, of what can you imagine the Avos were. It says they were a chariot. What is the meaning? What is the meaning? What does the Zohar want to tell us? Shekol Yemeim Lo'ilam, throughout their lives, they did not cease even momentarily. Melekashe Daitam and the Shmasal Ben Shalom, to combine their mind and their soul to the Master of the universe. Bebitul in Aniskalel, in the what mentioned before, in absolute surrender, to God's unity. And that's why they are called chariots, because a chariot does the will of the rider. It has no agenda of its own. Meaning, the constant awareness of God's unity led them to be constantly in a state of self-nullification before God, as explained much fully in chapter 23. This self-nullification is what is meant by the term chariot, a vehicle submissive to the will of the driver, the pilot. And after them, after you understand Avram, Yitzhak, Yaakov, and their journey in life, together with their wives, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, these were people that were committed totally, 24/7. So to all the prophets, who similarly nullified themselves for God's unity in varying degrees. Each one according to their level of their soul and their understanding of God. And then you go to the highest Navi of all time, which is Moshe Rabbeinu. May peace be upon him. Which surpasses them all. Like come Navi Moshe. Never has there ever stood up a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. Shama love that it said upon him, Shechina medaberes mitergreina shemesh, that the Shechina, the presence of God, spoke through the Moshe Rabbeinu's throat. He was such a total surrender to God that the very words he uttered were the divine speech. The relationship of Moshe's throat to divine speech was that of one of the throat of his own speech. His pashut, his throat became a vehicle. It became a vehicle. He was like a microphone. He simply spoke what the Eibishter spoke. And so too, every Jew had a privilege at Mount Sinai to this level of self-nullification. The difference between them and Moshe Rabbeinu, they could not endure this revelation. As our sages said, that when the Eibishter said first commandment, which every Jew heard, a pasha died. The souls took flight. And they had a resurrection. God resurrected them. This flight of the soul actually represents a self-nullification. They pasha were nullified in their source. And therefore, and therefore, after that, so they couldn't handle it. That's why you understand why ultimately they sinned. because they didn't. The Matan Torah did not come one with them because it was too great. Only Moshe Rabbeinu had the capability to receive Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai, even though the Eibishter gave the Torah to Am Yisrael, but the Parcha Nishmasam, they Pashid had total nullification, and the difference between total nullification of Moshe and the rest of the Jews, that Moshe Rabbeinu could handle the total nullification. But the rest of the Jews, their total nullification, actually, they had Aliyas in the Shema. They passed out. They died. The Eibishter wanted to have a concept of a relationship with Yidden, so that's why Miyad, after God forgave them, on Yom Kippur, the Eibishter said, make a Mishkan. Amalam Lasis Mishkan, to make a Mishkan. Of course, they're unable to live the feeling of self-surrender before God, commanded them immediately to erect for him a sanctuary, Uba Kochim, and in which the Holy of Holies is in. The Sharish Ashchina, so that the presence of God will dwell in them. The Eibishter wanted, as the Alter Rebbe said in the beginning of Tanya, the Eibishter wanted to have a dwelling place in this world. He actually wanted a dwelling in each and every one of us. But he realized that many of us are incapable of that at this present time, that we don't have the capacity and capability of a relation of God, as he showed at Mountain Torah, that when he said the Aseres Hadibris, and everyone heard the Parcha Nishmasim, the souls left their bodies. Therefore, he said, let's make a Mishkan. Let's make a place that I will have Ashras Ashchina. Mimi. There, his unity will be revealed. And you'll be able to see, ultimately, a Yid would be able to see the Ashras Ashchina in this Mishkan, which the Yid did see. But ultimately, and when there's such holiness, that when you have such great holiness, you have the challenge of the anti-holiness, so to say, and therefore they ultimately sinned. And we know that as Rashi said today in the Chumash, that the first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the second Beis was a mashkin. The Eibishter gave a mashkin. That's why the Eibishter gave collateral, gave a mashkin. Hopefully, they would keep the mashkin. And they would realize the greatness of Hashras Hashchina, that God is dwelling in their midst. Shugila Yechudi Yisbalech, what's self-understood, is the concept of the revelation of the oneness of God, as will be explained further. And that completes the Tanya of today. Today is the 30th day of the month, so it's Chodesh, 30th day of the month, which starts on chapter Kuf Mem Hey, 145 till the end of the book, chapter 150. If you do those 6 chapters, you do the Chitas of the day. I invite you all in Mit Shem at 10 o'clock. We'll continue to learn Tanya together, Chassidus together, and Mit Shem tomorrow. We'll come together at 8:15. As tomorrow is a Chodesh. Davening over here starts at 7 o'clock, but we're going to finish it around 8:15. So we're going to start the Chitas tomorrow at 8:15. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful and happy day. Chodesh, a wonderful Chodesh.